Thank you for your generosity. Okay, we're going to jump into our teaching today in the Become series. We have 2 weeks left in this series, and we're already starting to hear many people giving feedback on just the way that God is using this teaching. And it's simple, but it's clear and it's profound in terms of its power because it's the Word of God. It's the Word of God. And so what we're doing is we're taking and crystallizing some verses and some concepts, and we're letting the Word of God search our hearts and realign us and calibrate us to the Word, which is the truth. You'll know the truth, Jesus said. You'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So here's where we've been. I'm going to be as brief as I can in my recap. We talked about how each person is born into the world. When you're born into the world, a blank canvas, all of a sudden things start to happen and people begin to paint on you and create identity. And your identity is how you see yourself and how others see you and the things they put on you. And some of this is bright and some of it is dark. Some of the bright stuff, your accomplishments, your degree, your honor roll, your good grades, you're pretty, you're all this good stuff, right? So that's all on there. And then the dark stuff is the stuff like the abandonment and when you were cheated on and when you lost the job and when you failed the test and when someone told you they were stupid or they told you they didn't love you or they never told you they loved you, and all of that stuff is dark. And so this is us. What we've done is said, look, only the one who created you, only the one who really created you has the right to name you and declare your purpose. So we've gone through and deconstructed, and we've done it through conversations in our Connect groups, and we've done it through prayer and through conversations with people we trust, but going through and putting names and words and stories on these colors. And what we've done is gone through a process of deconstruction into a process of reconstruction and saying, well, then if I'm not all of this, and this is not my identity, then who am I? And we talked about insecurity. Insecurity is building your identity on anything that can be taken away, which is pretty much everything. And security is building your identity on things that cannot be taken away. You see, you are hardwired for security and fulfillment. You need it. You want it. I do too. Everybody does. Everybody needs security and fulfillment. God created you to want and need security and fulfillment. The problem is most of us go about trying to attain security and fulfillment outside of the Word of God, outside of His truth. So what we're doing is showing you how God intended for you to find these two things. Now, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to see beyond the way things are into the way God intended them to be. That's hard to do because most of our beliefs and our philosophies about the world have been formed based on the way that they are. You've made conclusions about relationships. You've made conclusions about money. You've made conclusions about security and fulfillment based on the way that the world is. But you have to be able to see beyond the way that the world is into the way that the world was intended to be by God, and then make changes accordingly. And that's what we're going to look at today. So the reconstruction of identity looks like this. Okay, it's these four things. It's loved, anointed, gifted, called. Those are the four words that populate your identity. And it's important that you get all four and that you get all four in the right order. Okay? The first one is love, that you are loved unconditionally at your worst, that God demonstrated His love toward us, and that while we were sinners, He died for us. Nobody can take that away. They can cheat on you, they can't take that away. They can take your job, they can't take that away. They can give you a bad diagnosis, or you can have a disease, they can take your health, but they cannot take that away. You are loved unconditionally by God. Number two, you are anointed, which means simply the Spirit of the living God literally lives inside of you. You are conceived when you believe. When you believe that Jesus died on the cross for your sin, His finished work meets your belief. Sperm and egg, now there is a new thing conceived in literal terms. Spiritually, you are now new, and now you have new DNA and a new last name. Your last name, friend, is anointed, and nobody can take that away. That's where you build your security, The next two are where we find our fulfillment. Now, if you mess up and try to find security in your gift, your uniqueness, it will never satisfy that security. You'll always feel insecure because now your gift and your talent, the thing you're good at, will bear the weight of your identity. And whatever bears the weight of your identity has bad inertia, okay? It puts heaviness on it. That's why some of you are good at things, and yet the bad thing is, because you're good at it and it bears the weight of your identity, you don't love it anymore. You want to quit. You fantasize about quitting. You're looking for something else. You want to be free from it because it's created bondage in your life because it bears the weight of your identity. It wasn't meant to. If your security is found here, now I can actually use my gift. And no matter how I measure up to the people around me, that's not where I find my security. I'll actually now enjoy doing what God created me to do. And then the fourth now is this idea of called, okay, called. And what we said last week is that calling, no matter who you are, your calling is people. We looked at Jesus, and Jesus said, the Son of Man, speaking of himself, came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. And so he sets up this whole dynamic that your gift is not your calling, people are your calling. So whatever opportunity you have and whatever talent you have, it's not for you. It's given to you to be given through you. And a gift is only a gift if you give it away. As long as you try to hold on to that gift and you use your gift to try to make more self, bigger, more self, you will have the opposite effect. The crater in your life will grow bigger and bigger. You'll find less and less fulfillment. And the moment you turn it towards people, now you'll find fulfillment. I'll bet you everyone in this room, whether you're all in on this or not, you've had a taste of giving your life away to people. And when you did it in the right way, with the right heart, it tasted really good. And there was something about that. You're like, that was pretty awesome. I could have spent that money on myself. I gave it to them. I could have taken that time and given it to myself, but I helped them with, meet a need, and it feels really good. Now, some of you, when you look at this, you don't like the last part of it. Calling being people, you're pushing back in your mind. You're like, well, hold on a second. So if I take all of my energy and I give it to other people, what happens when I'm empty? And some of you are sitting in this room and you have horror stories and war stories of burnout, where somebody picked you clean, drained you, and left you empty. And now the preacher gets up and says, hey, good news, friend. Your calling is to give away. And you're like, I've got nothing left to give. Now, I want you to think about the concept of an ecosystem. Think about not how the world is, think about how God intended it to be. Think about how God created it, okay? I want to start talking to you about this idea of energy, and I want to start talking about fossil fuel, okay? Fossil fuel. Fossil fuel is buried combustible geological deposits of organic materials formed from decaying plants and animals that have been converted to crude oil, coal, natural gas, or heavy oils by exposure to heat and pressure in the Earth's crust over many years. Okay? This is what you put in your car. This is what heats your home. And we as a nation and as a world have become very dependent on fossil fuel. Okay? Now I want you to take the concept of fossil fuel and I want you to take it into your personal energy and what you burn and what has gotten you to where you are. Most of us have lived our lives energized by fossil fuel. Fossils, things from the past, pain from the past. I wasn't approved of, so I'm living my life trying to prove something. I think if I climb high enough that I'll be able to show my dad, and I'll be able to show my mom, and I'll be able to show everyone that ever said anything about me, I'm going to prove them wrong. And that's why I'm going to get up early and I'm going to stay up late. Or there's a deep-seated insecurity that you think that your drive, insecurity creates a tremendous drive. If I think that my entire identity is based on this business or on this career or on this project, you better believe I'm going to give everything. I'm going to go at it like it's life and death, because it is life and death in that context. And so that insecurity creates fossil fuel. It creates fossil fuel, fossils from my past, fueling me. Most of us have lived on fossil fuel. And the problem with fossil fuel is when you become dependent on fossil fuel, it's hard to see outside of that. See, we live in a world that's dependent on fossil fuel. And we recognize that fossil fuel is an element, it's a resource that's going to go away. Eventually, we're going to run out of fossil fuel. It's going to be gone. You know, not our generation, but generations to come will eventually run out, which, by the way, you're not the first one to be running on fossil fuel. Your parents ran on fossil fuel, your grandparents ran on fossil fuel, your great-grandparents and generations of people you never saw or met ran on fossil fuel. You're just part of the downline. And if you'll change your energy source now, your great-grandkids and your great-great-grandkids and people that'll never maybe know your name will be affected because they'll learn a new energy. And yet this has tremendous power. This is why your career has done as good as it has. This is why you have the trophies you have. This is why you're a step and a notch above, because of fossil fuel, except you know something's not right with this. Something's not right. It smells funny. It's polluting the atmosphere. It's polluting the atmospheres that you grow into. But yet instead of learning how to harness other types of energy, it's much easier to just pull up to the gas tank and get by one more day on this old fossil fuel. Now there's another kind of energy, and it's called renewable energy. Okay? Renewable energy is energy from a source that is not depleted when used, such as wind and solar power. Okay, go ahead and bring up that picture. All right, this is a picture of the two kinds of energy. You have one source that's really creating tremendous power, but it's putting things in the atmosphere. It's pollution. It's pollution. And yet it's creating a very real power, but not a power that's going to benefit the world long term, and not a power that's clean, it's dirty. And yet when you look even in the same picture, there is the sun and there is the wind that also are renewable. The sun continues to produce energy. Wind continues to produce energy, and it's circular, and it doesn't run out. Now, we in our world right now, in a very literal sense, are trying to figure out this energy thing, and trying to go, oh man, how can we harness this? How can we do this? And yet we're in this situation that we've found a way outside of the natural order to take something that is going to be depleted and go away and become very, very dependent on it. This is a very powerful picture of your life and my life running on the fossils from our past. The key is to look beyond the way things are into the way that God intended them to be. Because you, my friend, were not intended to run on fossils and burn up dirty energy and pollute your atmosphere and just go day to day just filling your tank. God has created a system of renewable energy around you. Now, some of you do not like what I'm saying right now because you are depleted. You're exhausted. Because this is how relationships work in our world, this is the way things are now, okay? You have somebody who's born into this, right? And they're born into a situation where they have no self-esteem. No self-esteem. People were tearing them down from day one. Nobody told them they loved them. They were left early on. They were abandoned early on. They were hurt early on by parents or close people, okay? And so everyone that got close to them used them. And because of that, there's no personal self-worth. And so because they think they have no self-worth, they become a people pleaser. Because the logical conclusion is, I'm going to try to find security by giving anything that I have of value to people, hoping that if I have enough value and I give to them, that if I'm supplying to them, they'll stick around. So you give whatever you have. And you give whatever, your body, give your sexuality, you spend your whole life serving everyone around you, giving away. You don't value yourself. You think, man, if I'm not giving, well, I have no value. They're going to leave me. And so what happens is this person that doesn't have a self-esteem and doesn't have the security of the Father that says, there she is, there he is, my dearly loved son, my dearly loved daughter, brings me great joy. Because that's not their security, they try to find security in giving. And what happens is they find themselves exhausted because at some point the resource becomes depleted. You're not renewable. It goes away. Eventually you burn up all the fossil fuel, there's none left. And so here you are, people pleaser like this, and you're laying on the ground and you're like, and then the preacher shows up on Sunday and talks about, hey, I've got the key to life, man, the calling, it's give more. And you're like, oh, Lord, are you kidding me? I was hoping for something much better than that. And you're over here like panting for air, completely exhausted. I have nothing left to give. I've been completely drained. And then there's this other person over here, right? They grew up with a different story, okay? They were the polar opposite of the person that grew up with no self-esteem. Not only did they have self-esteem, the entire world revolved around them, okay? They were born into the world, and there was a line of people waiting to powder their hiney. Just a massive single file line. They came in and was like, this is the sweetest little hiney I've ever seen. And they start powdering that hiney, and every time they, did a cartwheel, we all went and got ice cream. And the whole world revolved around this person, and they got up and they knew mom and dad are fighting about me because I'm the center of the universe. So not only do they have self-esteem, they think they're God. They think they're God. And by the way, every time they played on a sports team that they weren't the superstar, well, it was a political system. It was very political around here. And the coach, just doesn't know real talent when he sees it. And every teacher that cracks down on the kid is just a jerk. And so mom and dad go in and get in that teacher's face. And so the kid knows that every time he gets or she gets in trouble, they get airlifted out of the situation because mom and dad's their whole universe revolves around this one kid. So you got this person over here who's completely depleted. They have nothing left because they have no self-esteem. And this person over here thinks they're God. Now here's what happens. This person over here who thinks they're God gets to a place where, mom, it's mom now, but hey, I don't want mom anymore. Now I need somebody else. So they start looking find me a people pleaser. I'm going to find me a good people pleaser. Oh, hey, there you are. Nice to meet you. And so what they do is they deplete the person. They deplete them. They devour them. They take all their resources. They eat them alive. They just take and take and take. And they actually don't feel bad about it. They don't feel bad about it because the world's always revolved around me. I'm entitled to the world revolving around me because it revolved around me since day one. And this person over here is just giving because they have no self-esteem. They don't really even ask for much, or if they do ask, the narcissist makes them feel like garbage because they ask for something. How dare you ask me for something? You don't even give me enough. And this person over here is and they're running out of they're just burning this stuff. And of course the narcissist, once they go ahead and burn through this person and the person's laid out completely, just nothing left, the fossil fuel's gone, I have nothing left to give, the narcissist goes, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, can I help you? Wrong. The narcissist says, how dare you? You're not giving to me anymore. How come you're not giving to me? And then they get rid of that person and they go on to another person that they can devour. So once they've run through about 2 or 3 of those, they start talking about, I have a fear of commitment. I have a fear of commitment, because people just keep burning out on me. And I'm finding out that, people actually, this fossil fuel keeps running out. And so, I'm hoping to maybe find somebody that'll just keep giving to me. And so now you have your person with no self-esteem who's laying here completely exhausted, and you have your narcissist who becomes a bigger narcissist by the day. Because like we said, you don't fill the crater by more, but the narcissist goes for more. So we have this mess. This is the world that we live in. You got to see beyond the way things are into the way God intended them to be. That's why maybe your first relationship, your first marriage didn't work out. That's why things are like they are. So what is renewable energy? What does this mean? Because this is the way God intended it, was for renewable energy. All right? Look at this. Galatians 5. Galatians 5 describes renewable energy. This is what it is. It says, for you've been called to live in freedom. You've been called to live in freedom, my brothers and sisters. But don't use your freedom to satisfy your sinful desires, your appetites. Don't try to fill your crater with more you. Big mistake. So this is renewable energy right here. You ready for this? Instead, Use your freedom to serve one another in love. Use your freedom to serve one another in love. Not the consumer gets consumed, or the producer gets consumed by the consumer. And I have no self-esteem, so I let them do it to me. And this person becomes a bigger monster. You're both in slavery. No one's free. You're both in bondage. That's not how God intended it. See beyond the way things are to the way God intended. God intended this. Serve one another. I serve you, you serve me, we both get served. I serve you, you serve me, we both get served. When you fall down, I pick you up. When I fall down, you pick me up. If you get into a big enough mess, I'll get 4 people to come help you out. Here's what happens. The one person, the person with no self-esteem, when they fall down, they don't even want to ask for help. I see it all the time. We have it in this church. People who, when they're going through stuff, they won't ask anybody for help. They will just suffer. And you try to help them and they won't take it. They don't feel like they deserve it. And then you have other people that just feel entitled to everything. They feel entitled to everybody's time. They feel entitled to everybody's money. Let everybody else pay for my thing. Let everybody else serve me. They don't want to serve. They don't want to, no, they just want to take. And then people over here that are in pain, and actually they'll be down here like going through the worst thing, still trying to give. And you try to give them something, they won't take it. It's a bad system. It's a bad system. It's not the way God intended it. It's the way it is. It's not the way God intended it. The way God intended it is for us to serve one another. Look at this in 1 Peter chapter 4. It says, God's given each of you a gift from a great variety of spiritual gifts. Use them to serve one another. Use them to serve one another. Can you see this, what this would look like? Can you imagine? This is why, for this to work right, we have to have community. Godly community, the way He intended. Because if only a few people get this, and you walk away, this is how people burn out, because they just give. Others take. In fact, for some of you in this room, the hardest part, go ahead and bring up the 4 things that we had at the beginning. For some of you in this room, if you started out with no self-esteem on this side, okay, the hardest thing for you to get is this, that you are loved exactly as you are, okay? You already get this giving thing. You've been doing that. And yet there's some others that the first couple you're like, oh, yeah, you know, I've always felt unconditionally loved. I believe, yeah, I was God for a while. And you believe all that. And yet down here, the thing God really wants to do to transform you is to get your eyes off you and have you start giving to other people. You don't give to other people. You only leverage relationships how it'll help you. You only do things you want to do. You only do things that ultimately can help you. And yet the lesson for you, the thing that's going to set you free, the thing that's actually going to bring true, renewable, healthy energy is that you start giving back into the ecosystem. That you give back into the ecosystem. Because what God has intended is for a community of people giving to one another. I give to you, you give to me. You fall down, come on, I get you back up. Look at this, Ecclesiastes chapter 4 says, 2 people are better than 1, for they can help each other succeed. This is different than what the world says. The world says, self-made. I did it myself. I'm at the top of the heap myself. I brought myself here. He says, that's not God's system. Help others succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help. If someone falls alone, he's in real trouble. And then it says, likewise, 2 people living close together can keep each other warm, but how can one be warm alone? Go to the next one. A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but 2 can stand back to back and conquer. And I love this. 3 are even better. Even better to have 3. A 3-stranded cord is not easily broken. All right? Now, the crazy thing is, in our world, there's a glimpse of this. And it's usually not from the church. It's in other places. I was talking to 2 people the other day. I talked to them separately. 2 people that were in the military. And they said, hey, when I was in the military, I went in the military to get the GI Bill and to get my school paid for and, to protect the nation and that kind of thing. They said, but you know what, when I actually went into battle, the thing that caused my greatest energy or my greatest sacrifice wasn't really like just the flag in general or just, freedom in general or, the USA. They said it was the person next to me without question. It was, we had been through boot camp together. We had been through training together. We had been in the same unit. We had marched together. We had cried together. We had bled together. And then when we went out on the battlefield, we were cemented relationally. You know what that is? Clean energy. Anywhere you have real love and a powerful mission, you have clean energy. Real love and a powerful mission, you have clean energy. And both of these people separately said the same thing. They said, Greg, the thing that would cause me to jump on a grenade at a split second wasn't the flag. It wasn't freedom in general. It wasn't the USA. It was that guy and that lady standing next to me. The people that I love. I would jump on a grenade in a second. I would give my life for that person next to me. And when you have that sort of thing, you have renewable energy. Some of you you've sensed it. If you've maybe seen it in the military. Then you show up at the church and we're burning dirty fuel, fossil fuel. People clawing each other's eyeballs out because they don't vote the same. Tremendously divided, according to this. The church, people burning each other out. What? How can you get a whiff of this with the military or the whiff of this with the ball team you played for? Maybe the whiff of this with a really good company where people had each other's back. And then to show up to the church, friend, our nation is tearing each other apart. We're afraid of each other. We don't know what's going on. And we're so divided. The enemy's wreaking havoc. The people of God should model better than anything. Is there a better, more powerful mission than eternity? We have the most powerful mission on earth, bar none, in the Milky Way galaxy. I'll take on Mars and Venus. We have the best mission. If you have real love and a powerful mission, you have clean energy. And so we have to think like that. Look at it. Jesus says, by this, all men will know you're my disciples. You love one another. By this, not how right you are, not how powerful you speak, not your logo, not how much you can thump your chest, by how you love selflessly, what you do with the ecosystem, the renewable energy. Any person should be able to walk in here and find this. It should be here, of all places. But there's no mission greater than ours, none. And we should be a place that you walk in this place, and when you fall down, you get back up. We get you. 4 or 5 of us come around. No, you're good. You don't need to be ashamed of yourself. Don't worry, because in about a mile, I'm going to fall, and I'm going to need you to pick me up. And we're not afraid to tell each other, and we don't devour each other. This is all hands on deck. Everybody loving each other. If you can't find it here, our world's in a big, big trouble. And we don't need one more right group of people out there busting everybody up and clawing each other's eyeballs out. We need a group of believers with renewable energy. This is the way God intended it. But you've got to see past the way things are.